appreciate you doing this. I was really excited to talk to you. I took a look at your profile on LinkedIn, and you have a very colorful pathway. And the reason why I named this podcast Pathways in Life Science, I wanted to highlight the fact that it doesn't matter where you're from. You can be a part of this industry no matter what your background is.
Right.
And you obviously have a career and background so far from the life science. Looking at your background, you were a commercial director at Alamo Rent-A-Car, a city councilor at Ville Montreal, and part of board of directors for a few organizations. So super excited to talk to you about your past. The whole point of this is to understand that in life, there's different pivots that take you to where you are now. And I'm always fascinated on how a person ended up where they ended up, but also specifically how a person ended up in the life science industry. Just tell me, how did you go from rent-a-car to even like from there to even city councilor at Ville Montreal? Even that's like shocking. So why don't we start there? Tell me that story.
Well, it wasn't a tourist industry. So I started with Alamo, just that Alamo had an opening in Montreal for a commercial director for the whole province. I had a bit of experience in the travel industry. So I was finishing my degree at McGill. And then I said, you know what, full-time position, it's open there. American company, very aggressive at that time. They were the leaders in their market. So I joined that company with pleasure. It was like, I'm starting my career. It's a big corporation. We were opening locations everywhere in the world. And I've always been so interested to learn about the globe. So Alamo was opening a lot of locations throughout Europe, South America, and we were starting to promote them with the tour operators, the airline companies. So for me, it was building up a lot of relationships in the industry, in the tourism industry, and then growing from there. So I just started with the Quebec market, then it became Eastern Canada, then it became Canada. And I had that opportunity to stay for a while with Alamo before I made the switch to a retail operation, which was Travel Cuts, which was based in Toronto. They were looking for someone in marketing and communications. I was doing a bit of that with Alamo because they were a US company sending us collateral. So we had to switch it for the Canadian version, and then the Quebec version. They were looking to have a lot of flavor, originality, creativity, and that. So I dug a lot of marketing, publicity, advertising, and made that obvious into the market here. And then when I went to Travel Cuts, it was the same thing they were looking for. They were looking to have somebody that would be local, that could promote the services. We had over like 100 travel agencies at that time.
Wow.
It was before the .com 2000 and the aircanada.ca or whatnot.
Right.
So we started a program at that time that was like a virtual travel agency to book online, so that we knew that people were going to book online. So we said the brick and mortar is just going to fade away. We need to specialize into adventure travel, so that you want to talk to someone that's been to Peru, someone that's been to, I don't know, Mozambique or South Africa.
Is this pre-Expedia?
Expedia was starting at that point, but what catapulted me out of that industry was when I was driving to work one morning and I see a big billboard and it says Air Canada, book online and save $10. we can't compete with that. That's it.
Yeah.
So the adventure stayed, the brick and mortar, with the individuals that were providing
Personal
experience. Personal experience, and saying, if you're going to Peru, you need this, you have to pack that, you have to go to this location, don't go there, be careful of that. Which, we had so much fun seeing somebody that booked a flight to Sydney, Australia, but misspelled it and went to Sydney, Nova Scotia. So we knew that there was a demand for people that need to have them by the hand to travel.
Sure. What strikes me right now is you're obviously a very charismatic guy, very smart guy. And you seem like the type of person that, whatever you choose to sink your teeth in, you'll do well. And obviously looking at your career and your path, you've done so many things. I'm just interested in the fact that you ended up here in our industry. It says, okay, just reading your profile, Ambassador of Innovation, Life Sciences, Biopharma, and Ophthalmology sectors and sites. Is this something that you consciously chose to be in, or it's just one of those things where your path kind of led you here and you're here for a while and then you'll do like airlines or something later on? Or is this a concerted effort for you because it's your passion?
Well, your intervention made me blush with the first part, so thank you for the compliment.
It's obvious.
It's nice to hear, but thanks. The way that it happened is that many factors. a lot of circumstances came together. 10 years of working with the ophthalmic industry with a network of clinics throughout Canada, which was a leader. They had like 25% of the market, ophthalmic and optometrist, and optician also at the same time, independent. So a lot of experience in there that led to getting closer to the medical sector a little bit because, you know, you're doing an exam, you're prescribing. So there's a doctor relationship. So I was doing some trainings. So that was the medical part. Then I went to TechnoPark for 5 years, TechnoPark Montreal, which is the site. And we were kind of like paramunicipal, which means like almost a municipal entity, but we just got this, you know, the grants from the city, but we used it to promote the site, to attract investors, to do trade mission with different countries. So a lot of the consulates in Montreal were approached. So I said, you know, the consulate of Japan, the consulate of South Korea. I was going to say North Korea. That would have been hard to do.
That would have been interesting.
And then a company called Neomed, which is now AdMare BioInnovation, that you probably know well. Neomed, they were on the Technopark and they had a need to have somebody, and this is like a tagline I like to use, is to bring life to life sciences. So they needed to go out and show who they were, what they do to attract people to come and rent space because there's many different companies renting space there. And at that time, the city of Montreal had taken over the Technopark, but a lot of people left, but I stayed and they wanted me to stay. And they said, you're going to become a contractual with us to stay with the Technopark, make sure that what you've done in the last 5 years continues. And Neomed was saying, well, can you stay and do like 1 day a week for us to promote and have the communications and bring people in, investors, new companies? And I said, you know what? There's a big lack of someone doing that quarterback position in the whole football team of life science in Montreal. So I said, I'll take that position and I'll make sure that when I have the ball, I can send it to someone that's, you know, close to the touchdown area and mark some points. So we noticed that AdMare, well, no, not noticed, but AdMare was a fusion of CDRD and Neomed from Vancouver and Montreal. So they merged together and became AdMare BioInnovations. A lot of people stayed with the AdMare facility in Montreal. And we opened the second phase. So we had the construction going on to have a second phase with 3 levels of square footage of labs and offices and an accelerator. So there was a whole fun opportunity right there. I stayed with AdMare and AdMare said, we'll sign a contract. I said, okay, now I'm going to register my company. This is when it started to have TechnoPark. Then I had AdMare. Then several other CROs or smaller biotech, they said, you know, we like what you're doing there. Can you do it for us? So I started to subcontract also.
So are you still doing that now then?
Yeah, that's what the ambassador position is and for life sciences. And because at the same time, I had some other contracts with different organizations. It's the Association of Research and Innovation for Quebec. And I started hosting a lot of events like an MC. Doing galas, you know, getting used to be on the mic and talking to people. And then after you go down from the stage, you go talk with the people and you start to interact. And so I saw the birth of the Conseil d'Innovation du Québec, which was great. And Luc Sirois, we co-hosted the Innovation Gala together. So I was starting to get some smaller companies also saying, hey, we need your help. We like what you're doing. You're bringing life to, well, life science, but also to other companies. And the thing is, if you want, Patrick, it's like j'ai un gros défaut. I have one big default is I like people. I like talking to people.
Yeah, it shows.
But I like it so much that I cannot be confined to one company. So I tried to go back to do like a sort of a 9 to 5 corporate Carl approach. And it's not me.
Didn't work. Yeah.
No,
I hear
it's lacking that exchange of, you know, you're talking with one company in biotech. You're talking with one company that's doing aerospace. You're talking with one company that's like into education, another one in ophthalmology. So you're just putting a different hat at the same time. You know, when you do like 3-4 hours for one, you put another hat and you do 3-4 hours. Basically, it's just trying to regroup all that people together and say, each have your own personality and your taste. And it's funny because when you spoke about Alamo and I said, oh yeah, The travel industry, I loved it because every country had their own flavor. If you
Right.
think about Italy, the mountains and the ocean, and the food's going to be like that, and the people are going to talk with their hands. So it's all got
Yeah.
a flavor, and you have to bring that to each different company to say you have a personality, you have a DNA. And what does the strength of the DNA comes from is the people that work for you and the leadership in your company.
You've been honing those skills for a long time, just being sensitive to, each company has their own culture and to try to understand that culture and to adapt and fit into that culture to communicate properly to help
Right.
them. But I'm fascinated about that. Obviously, to generate business for TechnoPark. And I know having covered TechnoPark as a sales rep, even the TechnoPark itself went through peaks and valleys, right? And so there's a lot of changes there. But
Yeah.
creating that excitement and encouraging, I'm assuming, international companies, not just Canadian or American, to invest in the TechnoPark. How do you do that?
It's funny because we're talking again about travel. I figured when I positioned the technopark into the, you always position yourself with the competition across North America. So yeah, you try to say, okay, where do we have strength? What's our strength? What's our weakness? A SWOT analysis, basically. But you kind of say now technopark is a destination. So
Mm-hmm.
why am I saying that? Because if you're coming to the technopark with your company, you're going to benefit from approximately 200 different companies that are in the same area in your sector. Let's say you're into aerospace. You have about 25 companies which are in aerospace. Here are the names. We make a lot of events, social events, or trainings where people can sit down and meet other members of different companies. So you do have that networking opportunity. Then you say, okay, well, what about people that come down here and say, oh, is there a place where I can go running at lunchtime with this like a small park atmosphere? Yes, there is. So we had like Echo Campus section of the Techno Park, which was I still go sometimes with my bike
Yeah.
or to run, and it's just like you're next to the airport, you're next to the techno park, but it's a wild park, and it's but we have
Wow.
pathways. We've built pathways and make sure that something was there for the people that work there. And then we have over 12 different restaurants that are open, but they're inside the buildings. Techno parks innovation, which is where
Mm-hmm.
they used to be in Nortel. So we wanted to make it more like a destination that people will come and say, wow.
Gotcha. Okay. And obviously, being in Montreal, it's also kind of exotic as well for companies. But in terms of financially, is there an advantage of international companies come and invest in Quebec now? Is there any sort of tax breaks specifically for the biotech life science industry?
There is programs and there's organizations that can help out in Quebec. I'm thinking about the first one that comes to mind is Bio-Quebec, of course, which is a great organization that's out there for the biotechs in Quebec. But we do have also Quebec, Investment Quebec, that helps for new companies getting in. Montréal International, which is another organization that will take care of the companies moving in and will take care of to the point that they will find a school for the kids of the person that comes to.
Okay.
So we do have different organizations that will help, the smooth landing.
Mm.
And the number one incentive compared to Cambridge or Kendall Square area, the cost of operations and research is way much more competitive here. And as a matter of fact, I was involved with the real estate and still am involved with real estate for labs. So finding lab space for companies.
Mm-hmm.
By the square footage, I can tell you we're like 25 to 30, if not sometimes 50% less expensive here as far as the construction goes
Wow.
and the price per square footage. The operation cost, with Quebec being such a rich province for hydroelectricity, right off the bat, there's like
Yeah.
20% of your operation costs that are cheaper or
Yeah,
less.
sure.
So,
Especially now with the exchange rate, it's even more attractive
yeah,
probably. But an example, like, I think the Quebec had gave like heavy tax breaks to, for example, the film and the video game industry, like that whole like art
yeah,
industry. And there was like a booming industry, what was it, like 10, 15 years ago? And recently, I don't know if you've heard the news that they actually pulled the plug on that. And I have a couple of friends in the industry that says just went dry. Like everyone just
yeah, yeah.
took off.
We are in a situation where we're not even on the market with the product. We're in the research stages. By working with another of my organizations that I worked with, they were the ones that were looking at bringing the researchers from the university centers with pharmaceutical companies to
Hmm.
see if we could invest and promote the research with the money from the pharmas. But we always needed to have monies coming from the federal or the provincial government, mostly the provincial government, the Ministère de l'Économie Innovation Québec. The,
Right.
the ministry has been pushing a lot because they know it's research. And once we start to have, after the phases are done, you're ready to go to market, you can either have an IPO, you can go in the stock market. Before that, you're doing research and you have no money. So how do you pay your staff? How do you make sure that your staff is comfortable by working at your locations? If you're into the life science or biotech sector, some companies have another branch or division that has a
Hmm.
commercial product that they can sell and get some
Okay.
money out of. Will be a right balance of knowing you can't always be, owing money or begging for money. You have to make sure that you're either getting sources that are different than just the government. So the pharma
Hmm.
that was an example. You can have pharma sponsoring your research, or have another division that will sell a service or a product.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense.
and
Yeah.
the position that we have in Canada is a great benefit for those that are in the US. Now we hear more about San Diego and the Research Triangle Park, like North Carolina area. Companies here that are going into commercial missions or doing trade shows, they're going a lot in the US to, say, hey, we are providing that service for you out of either Montreal, Toronto, out of Canada with a cost benefit, but then the exchange rate, that's another plus. I think what we should be promoting now is to have more contact with the US in the sense that we have organizations here that can help us to promote the services of the companies, the Canadian companies into the US. So there should be a big push, even though the last weekend was one that all
A
had
gong show.
no more nails, biting our nails so much. We're at the mercy of the biggest market in the world. So we have to be also a little bit nice, to say, hey, listen,
Yeah.
we have people that work here, but they know that we have people that are qualified here. They know that we have tremendous universities in Canada that have research centers, that we have so much bright people working there.
Yeah, the talent pool is very good. And I love the fact that you pinpoint all the attractions to bring the US money into Canada.
Yeah.
What do you think the future is looking like? What are people saying out there with machine learning and AI? Are we really going to have personalized medicine and vaccines? And is it going to take us 2 months to figure it out? What are you hearing out there?
The little parallel that I can make with that,
Yeah.
Patrick, is that when COVID struck,
Yeah.
remember in 2020, February, March or so, I think we went on a lockdown in March. Everybody was depressed. What are we going to do? It's a crisis. And especially our sector was like, oh my God, what's going to happen to our sector? And I started to publish every single morning when I wake up. I go and do a research. I get a lot of information being pushed in my email. And then I said, okay, which good news can I share? So I started to promote the encouraging news of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, we are what, the 5th of February 2025. I would say since February 2020. So it's been 5 years. Every morning, I gather some information and I promote it to the network to say, here's an encouraging news of the day.
Good for
And
you.
now what I'm seeing most is that exactly what you're saying. IA, there's a lot of intelligence that's being developed with every tool or single tool that we can find with IA, the data information that we have and the exactitude of the research by finding the right compound. Or I would say we're going to be probably having a more sharp drug or medication that's going to be either administered by ways that we've never thought of. So now we hear a lot of people putting patches on, or syrups, or liquids that they can ingest instead of having the syringe into their arm or the
Mm-hmm.
transfusion. And why is that so important? It's because there's a big danger there, is that are we going to be promoting the fact that people will not be having a disease and will not die. That's a different
Mm,
subject we could discuss, you and I, with a glass of scotch or something. But
yeah. Immortality. Isn't that what we all want? Immortality?
well, that's what the problem is. It's like, are we really aiming at that, and then realizing that the Earth is so small that we won't be able to fit all that people on the Earth, if we have immortality like that.
Well,
But
that's another conversation. That's why Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. But yeah, we can talk about that
that's
some
what I
other
said.
time.
We'll have that over a glass of beer or scotch or something. But
Yeah. You got it. Deal.
what we're seeing most, and it's artificial intelligence, virtual reality also. I'm working with one of my clients on virtual labs that we can be training people in Nunavut or in
Yeah.
Greenland, Iceland, like anywhere that we cannot reach the people that want to be working into labs. So we're moving towards having a more defined and modern and precise medicine.
Did you take a look at the question I sent you? The question I said is, if your career in life science were a movie, what would the title be?
There's one movie that I like a lot, and I still watch it and being moved by it. Is La Vita è Bella, Life is Beautiful, with
Oh, that's
Roberto
amazing.
Benigni. Yeah,
Yes.
uh,
Amazing.
and it's just a parallel of very somber and dark world and happy-go-lucky world that he's providing to his surrounding. And like I said, bringing life to life science would be one of those things that he brought life to his family. There's always ways to bring the positive out of any situation uh, in life, even though it's a dark situation. It's like hopeless situation. You've got to be something that's positive out of it, and you dwell on it so that it's easier for everybody around.
Man, I love that. I love that answer. I love that movie. You obviously are sincere about it and truly believe it because, sending that one message a day since February
Oh,
2000,
yeah.
was it 5 years ago? You're sincere about that. That's awesome. Definitely need more people like you in the world for sure. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Let's leave it on a high note and a positive note.
Thumbs up.
The thumbs up. Yeah, maybe one thumbs up. Yeah. This one,
One.
we all know who does that. So yeah, let's do this one.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, on my Twitter, it's a thumbs up after my name.
That's awesome, Carl. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks.